All right, Brett, we're going on mute. We're going
Okay, I'm
in.
going on mute too, and we are live. And we have several attendees that are starting to log on. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's virtual community forum regarding the Village at Laguna Hills project. We will begin shortly. We still have several people that are trying to log in and will be attending. So if you can just give us a few minutes, we will go ahead and start in the next few minutes. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brenda, and I will be your moderator this evening. Welcome to the final of 3 forums we are doing to share updates on the Village at Laguna Hills project. The previous forums were hosted on October 28th, November 10th, and with much success and community involvement. So again, thank you for attending this evening, and we look forward to your input. If you have technical difficulty or have a friend who may be texting you with technical difficulty, we will be posting this presentation next week on the Village at Laguna Hills website, so you'll be able to view it. Beyond that, we will have no technical support this evening, so please refer to your Zoom FAQs if you're having difficulty. So for tonight, here's what you can expect. You'll be hearing from our main presenter this evening, Stephen Logan, Vice President of Development with Merlone Geyer Partners. Merlone Geyer is a developer of this project, and we encourage you to learn more about them by visiting their website at merlonegeyer.com. Stephen will be giving a 15 to 20-minute presentation, and he will be joined by 2 colleagues who he will introduce to you shortly. Last thing is that you will note that your microphone, camera, and group chat functions are not active. However, you will see a conversation icon at the bottom of your screen, of your Zoom screen. That is for Q&A. You see the Q&A and the conversation bubbles there on the right lower part. You will be able to type your questions, and I will be able to see the questions come through. I will go ahead and ask Stephen your questions. Once Stephen and his team have answered the question, I will go ahead and make those questions live. We kindly ask that you remember, or that you stick to questions only, as we will not be reading comments. This will be a question and answer only exchange. Out of respect to everyone's time, we will be ending promptly at 7:30 p.m. So without further delay, we will go ahead and turn over the forum to Stephen Logan with Merlone Geyer. Stephen?
Thank you, Brenda, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. What we're going to do tonight is, unfortunately, with the unprecedented times, we would be having this conversation in person and being able to talk to you in person, but unfortunately, due to these times, we won't be. But what I wanted to do tonight is introduce you to my team. I have Dave Geiser to my right. He's the managing director of design and construction. We also have Dennis Borowski on the line, who is represents our leasing group, who will be leasing the village of Laguna Hills. And really quickly, what we wanted to do is just kind of talk through, the timeline quickly of when we bought the project back in 2013. When we received approval back in March of 2016 to build around 950,000 feet of retail and about 988 apartment units, and that was approved back in March of 2016. And so from that approval, we went forward and we demoed the south end of the mall. We started to move forward with our putting steel on the ground, building our theater and our park. And then Macy's came to us back in 2017 and told us that they wanted to close this location, as well as a location at Irvine Spectrum. And so we worked with them to get them out of their current situation and move forward. And so what happened there, we had to hit the pause button and decide, how to either reuse the Macy's building for office, medical office, how to reuse the existing mall, and see how to reuse the site and make it more dynamic than just an existing retail center. With that, JCPenney came to us in 2018 and decided that because we were going to close the interior of the mall and reimagine the entire property, that they no longer wanted to operate the center here. And so they ended up leaving, which basically gave us a 68-acre site in South Orange County on El Toro and the 5 with no encumbrances left for us to really go look at how to, reinvigorate the plan. Back in April of 2019, we came to the community with a plan that was very robust, something similar to the plan that we're going to show you tonight, but was much more robust. Along the freeway, we had about 860,000 feet of office. We had about 250,000 feet of retail. We had 2,100 apartment units and a hotel. And that plan was going to, we were going to have to do a specific plan update. We're going to have to do a general plan update and a full EIR, and working with the city and listening to the community that plan was just, extremely dense and that it wasn't, well received. We went back to the drawing board and came up with a presentation that you see today that we went to city council with back in November of 2019 to kind of lay out our plans moving forward. And Dave will go through in a little bit and talk about the site plan and how the site plan lays out and why the certain aspects are there moving forward. But quickly, this plan shows 250,000 square feet of retail, 1,500 units of apartments, which is 600 units less than what we did back in April of 2019. It's about 500 units more than what our previous approvals had. 100 to 150 room hotel and around 465,000 square feet of office. And so really quickly, you just want to walk through, our community outreach since April of 2019. We heard from the community back in 19, as I discussed. We met with a group called Future of Laguna Hills Advisory Group in July and October and listened to them and started listening to the community about, the plan moving forward. As I mentioned, we had a city council presentation in November. Shortly thereafter, we submitted our application. We've been working through the environmental documents and application documents with the city. Our goal is to be able to go to the city council for review in January. We met with the advocacy committee back in October. We met with the Laguna Hills Chamber of Commerce, as well as the 3 community outreach forums that you're here tonight to see. And our goal is to present, the plan and the findings to the community or to the city council in January. Quickly, high level, if we get approved in city council in January 21, it's going to take us roughly 18 to 24 months to put together our plan check and our construction documents, along with permits and mapping. It just takes time to get these things together. We have to put together demo plans, construction plans in order to build the retail. Our goal is to commence the retail in the fall of 22, early 23, and that's going to roughly take us anywhere between 30 to 36 months to complete. So the retail, the Village Park, and the hotel will be completed and up and running by fall of 25 or early winter of 26. Our goal is to start the residential construction along the same time we do the retail construction. There'll be a little bit longer time there to get that completed. We look at spring to summer of 26 to have the first 2 residential buildings up, which is about 550,000 square feet. And the office construction will happen as the market drives that moving forward. Phase 2, once we get the first phase completed, and we'll talk about how we're going to move Nordstrom Rack and look at the site. We'd start, construction documents and permits for the second phase. We commence between 50 to 75,000 square feet of retail, another 300 to 700 units of residential, and that would start in January of 26. And then our goal is to complete the retail phase by January of 29, with the residential following thereafter. And then we'd be left over with roughly 250,000 units left that could be built somewhere between the years 2030 and 2033. So really quick on the community and economic benefits, we are building a 2.5 acre park. In our previous approvals, we had about a 1 acre park. So we're doubling that up. And as you can see, when Dave walks through the design and the community aspect and how we liven that up, we're very excited about it, with concerts and farmers markets moving forward. The hotel will give us transit-oriented taxes back to the city. We see that to be roughly $500,000 a year, which will help, alleviate some of the sales tax that have gone down, since Mason, JCPenney have left. Increased property taxes, increased sales taxes. As part of building the residential, we have park fees that are being paid to the city, which is roughly, $15,000 a door. And once it's fully built out in the next, 15 years or so, that's over $20 million in park fees back to the city. We also have construction jobs and permanent jobs moving forward for the residents of Laguna Hills and South Orange County. So with that said, I will turn the presentation over to Dave. He's going to talk about how the orientation of the site is. He'll walk through some renderings, walk through our thought process. I'll turn it over to Dennis. He'll walk through the retail market, where we're at today, and then brief update on the office, hotel, and then we'll turn it over for a quick video of the site and questions and answers. So Dave.
Great, thanks, Steven. At this point, you guys should be looking at the site plan of the overall site. Interstate 5 should be at the top of the screen, and El Toro Road over on the left. Just for orientation purposes, you see the BJ's restaurant at the lower left-hand corner. The In-N-Out and King's Fish House is the existing building up at the corner. And then where retail anchor 1 and 2 are is about where the Macy's sits today.
David, I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is Brenda, the moderator. We are not able to see your shared screen. Can you just double check that the technology is working?
Absolutely.
There we go. There we
Perfect.
go.
Okay.
Okay, this is working.
Well, thanks for letting me know, Brenda. We'll start that briefly again.
Sorry about that.
So again, this time you should see the site plan for the full site. 5 freeway at the top of the screen, El Toro Road on the left. And where I picked up is that the retail anchors 1 and 2 in the mustard color there, that's where the existing Macy's sits today. When we reimagined the site here, we tried to plan where the uses best belong. And what that led us to is the office buildings really want to be located close to the freeway, just for their visibility to attract strong tenants. So that's where we relocated those office tenants. As Stephen mentioned, we reduced the square footage of the office building from 800,000 square feet down to under 500,000 square feet. So those are 4-story buildings, and we'll look at some renderings here in a minute. The ultimate parking is planned in 2 parking structures that will only be built when the demand requires that they come online. Over in the southeast corner of the site, we've heard strongly from the community that they wanted a place for events to still happen. The farmers market, pumpkin festival, park and ride, Christmas tree lot, Cirque du Soleil, all the events that happen, they wanted a place for that to happen in their community, and a place where it historically has. So we've left that corner open for dual use for those functions and for parking for the center. The retail is oriented towards El Toro Road. You see there we have our new retail building. Anchor 1 is the relocation of the Nordstrom Rack on site into that space there. We've got room for another major anchor next door. And we'll see it in the renderings, what you can't see on this plan. Up above these 2 buildings is the theater, which actually, while you see it from El Toro Road, it opens back and faces the park. And I'll explain a little bit more how that interaction works. And just to the west of that is our mixed use building that not only has retail on the ground floor facing El Toro Road, which is enough room for approximately 40,000 square feet of retail space, and also shops facing the park, but also residential units up above. We've got the existing BJ's restaurant and In-N-Out Kingsfish remaining. We're adding a couple pads along El Toro and Avenida La Carlota. So anchoring our project in the center of our site is an expanded 2.5-acre park with shop buildings, entrance to the theater, shops under the residential on the west side facing the park. And then also we've got our hotel anchoring the south side of the park. As Steve has explained, 125, 150 units of hotel, but ground floor retail also face the park. The street that's between the hotel and the park can be closed down for pedestrian events, whether that's a craft show or start of a 10K or 5K race, or whatever community events want to be planned. We can close part of this down to vehicular traffic. And I'll explain more about the park in a little bit. The surrounding then the hotel and the park is our residential neighborhoods here. We spent a lot of time on the design with both planning staff and PlaceWorks, a group that the city's hired to help with the overall process. And I'll talk about those a little bit here as we move forward. So I just want to give you a general layout of the site before we go to some of the renderings here. So this is where the camera is placed over the intersection of El Toro and the 5 freeway, looking back towards the southwest, where we see the Kingsfish and In-N-Out in the foreground. There's and right behind that is our 2-story retail building with Nordstrom Rack on the left corner, space for a 40,000 square foot anchor on the right, and the theater building up above with its entrance toward the back. We've got the office buildings facing the freeway, the hotel in the middle of the site, anchoring the south end of the park, and then you see the residential units wrapping around and behind. Between the office and the park are future parking structures on either side of the 4th office building in between. Again, those office buildings are about 40,000 square foot footplates. They're about 4 stories tall. We'll talk about the design in a little bit. Let's go to the next slide. This is a view from the freeway looking to the west. Again, seeing the freeway frontage of the office buildings there. They're low. They were 2 stories taller. They're down to 4 stories. Gensler is our architect on this project and designed some really compelling and interesting office space here that we think fits in well with the community. And I'll talk a little bit more about the design. We see some close-ups of that. Next slide. So this is a view looking to the east. We're on the west side. We're on top of the Saddleback Hospital right now. Look at the project. We see the park anchoring the center of the site with the retail building theater. And then we see the theater entrance now coming down into the park, the dog park right there at the entrance, the mixed use residential below with retail face the park, and also the residential wrapping around. This is also a good angle for me to describe briefly how the residential work. These are called wrap products. What you see in the middle of each one of the residential buildings is the parking structure. And these parking structures are approximately 5 to 6 stories tall. You drive to your floor of the parking structure and then enter your floor of the apartment building. And so what this does, it not only offers a four-sided building for the community, for the neighborhood, and you never see the parking structure. And that's a benefit to just the design and creation of neighborhoods. We don't have a series of parking structures that people see. And then what that also allows us to do is create off of that parking garage then is a series of fingers that come out from there, but then create a series of parklets or open space areas that not only keep us from having too much, and there's some amount of linear nature to the building design. We get closer up, I'll explain a little more about that, but it allows visual interest as a pedestrian walking along the street, that those facades are broken up along the main pedestrian routes. So now we're looking south, we see the retail buildings in front, retail under the mixed use residential there to the west side, and the park behind it. So what we have coming off El Toro Road is that intersection is going to remain where it is. We're going to enhance that roadway with a planter strip there, but that becomes the main street as it runs back through the project between the retail, connecting to the park, connecting to the hotel, connecting to the residential, and ultimately just the gateway main street to the center. So now if you take us down, we're going to go to the ground level. Excuse me. So this is a view from the ground level of that main street. And so as I look to the left here, I see the major two building tenant to be determined here. Dan will talk a little bit more about some tenanting. And on the second floor up above is the theater that's going to open towards the back side. But again, architecture with a lot going on with it, because these buildings are four-sided. There's no back to these retail buildings. They're a little more expensive to build, but it actually provides more visual interest to the pedestrian walking by them, but also just a design, it's a high level design on all four sides of the building, on every single building, whether that be the office or the residential or the retail or the hotel. All of these buildings have four-sided design. Let's keep going to the project. So now we find ourselves a little further down Main Street. I'm looking at the mixed-use building to the right with ground floor retail shops facing the park. And I'm looking here at the park and residential building beyond. And the idea with the residential buildings is not have all matching buildings, but with complementary architecture, where we have a lot of different materials going on with stones and plaster and wood and tile and formed concrete, and a lot of articulated planes. We see on the right, we've got balconies that are pushing and pulling. There's a lot of different height variation in the parapets. As we talked earlier about the fingers that come out, there's a lot of visual relief in the faces of the building, all to really create a very warm environment for the residential units. Let's move on. So now we're going to look at the hotel. The way the hotel is designed is we have ground floor retail facing the park, but up on the second floor, we create the outdoor amenity deck that looks down over the park with a swimming pool and amenity areas for the hotel itself. We've got some, hopefully potentially some conference rooms there that can also utilize that space. We see on the left-hand side here, the shop building that's right in the park itself that has outdoor dining opportunities for some fast casual restaurants. Dennis will talk more about that. But just again, wanting to see the design of the hotel here and how that interacts with this large 2.5 acre park. Next slide. So this is a ground level view through the park to the hotel. We see the amphitheater off on the left-hand side, but just a beginning to understand how many different interactive areas there are within the park, seating areas. There's a dog park, there's a top lot, there's a water quality feature, a huge turf area, outdoor dining opportunities, retail kiosk opportunities, all in this 2.5 acre park. So this is a plan for the office buildings. And what we've done here is we've tried to create an outdoor environment instead of just a parking lot between the buildings. What we've created is this outdoor amenitized area connected to the walkways and paseos through the neighborhood and through the retail, but that are amenitized for the public and for the office tenant as well. We have outdoor meeting areas, trellised areas, gathering places, but all with highly amenitized outdoor areas. Again, let's go to the next view, which is going to show how that looks from above. So here's our office building design. Again, trying to break up the monotony of a building with the ground floor masonry and steel, which are pedestrian friendly materials. We've got indoor outdoor meeting spaces for the office tenant. These vertical, again, strong horizontals are broken up with vertical materials such as the wood, which also provides some solar passivity to the office design itself. And again, trying to create an architectural language that crosses between both the retail, the hotel, the residential, and the office building. Next slide. They're just looking down into that park area between the buildings. Again, you see the 4 stories of office with generous outdoor balconies, again, that offer an opportunity to open doors, open windows, to create just a really great office community and office space for them. Next slide. So just really quickly here from the urban village specific plan, we worked again closely with planning staff and with PlaceWorks to make sure that our plan was consistent with the urban village specific plan. And a big part of that was landscape, not only with generous pedestrian paseos, treated with the landscape and the outdoor seating, but also just the plant palettes that we see. Our usable open space is around 16 to 17% of the area, which is, it exceeds the requirements of the urban village specific plan. But again, a thoughtful design for how people are going to walk and live and interact in this mixed use community. So let's get to focus on the park a little bit. Our 2.5 acre park is anchored by our amphitheater there in the middle. You'll see the rendering of that over in the middle on the right-hand side. The park area, the lawn area facing that, this is intended either just to hang out, throw the Frisbee around or football, or hang out with a family. Or if there's a music event, or if someone's, the idea is we have, Saturday afternoon or evening concerts in the park that people come out for. But at the same time, if there's not something going on, we'd have chairs and seating there in the shade for people to enjoy. We've got retail kiosks throughout. We've got activated water features at the corners. And then we're even planning that are connected by a water quality feature, which is basically a place to treat the water that runs off from this during the wet months, that actually goes dry during the summer months. But it should be noted that right now, not a single drop of water that falls on the Laguna Hills Mall site is treated before it leaves the site today. And based on our design, every drop of water that falls here will not only be retained, but treated before it leaves the site. Over up against the theater building, we've got a dog park for both big dogs and small dogs. These are not only popular with the residents here who have their dogs and need to get out, but as a destination for the community to walk your dog to and through the area and end up at the dog park. These are very popular as a community hangout with your dog, and it's very, very large and comfortable. We've got Tot Lot also located near the creek, and again, you can see our shop buildings with outdoor dining areas for fast casual dining and other retail opportunities. But again, this is just a 2.5 acres of amenitized community park space. Next slide. And here's a rendering of that. So we see the staircase and escalators up to the theater. We see the dog park on the left, the large green area in the middle with the amphitheater there on the right-hand side. And just again, place to hang out, whether there's 20 people or 200 or 2,000, this is really a center of the project that we think just provides a really great amenity space for everyone who's going to use and enjoy the project. And that's that. Are you going to roll up?
Yeah, so before I take it over to Dennis, because my apologies of not getting the screen share in the early part of the presentation, but here's the project phasing that we talked about, just so you can see this. Our goal is to be in front of City Council in January. Permits, plan check, construction documents are going to take us anywhere between 18 to 24 months. Our goal is to start getting vertical and demoing the existing mall in November of 22. Have the first 140,000 to 160,000 feet of retail with the village park and the hotel up by November of 25, and then the construction completion for the residential sometime in April of 26. The office construction, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be built as the market sees fit. Phase 2 will begin immediately after the first phase is completed on the retail. So we're going to start documents and permitting process prior to the phase 1 retail being completed. Our goal is to begin construction in early part of 26. It's going to take all of 30 months to get that done. Our goal with the retail and some of the residential is to be complete by January 26. And for this, or start January 26, and the phase 2 will be completed by 2029 with some of the additional 550 units of residential coming online, later that spring or summer. And phase 3 will begin as the market sees fit on the additional residential buildings. So I wanted to share that with you. And then just really quick on the economic benefits, as you guys didn't see the slide, talking about how Dave talked about the Village Park and the amenity space that there is there. The ability to bring TOT or transit-oriented taxes from the hotel, which is around $500,000 to the city every year. And then just increase property taxes, sales taxes, and park fees, as I mentioned earlier. We also will bring, temporary construction jobs as well as permanent jobs as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Dennis to talk about, the retail leasing. He'll turn it back over to me. I'll just touch base on where we stand on the hotel discussions in the office, and then Brenda will turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are very excited about this development opportunity. We've owned this property for several years now, and we took an initial run at this development under the previous design. And obviously, as Stephen explained, some things changed, and those are market driven. And I think right now, the layout, the type of project that this is developing to be, the amount of retail is very appropriate for this trade area, for the market and today's market conditions. So, the new plan for retail will be approximately 250,000 square feet. And, I've got quite a bit of experience working this area and kind of feel that this is really the appropriate size for this type of development. I've been at Merlone-Geyer now for about 5 years. Previously, I was with the Irvine Company and Donahue Schreiber, big development companies, and worked a lot in this market. Spent many years on the Marketplace project in Tustin and Irvine up at Jamboree Road. So, the types of stores will really be a blend of promotional retail, upscale specialty stores, anchor stores, and entertainment, restaurants. But I think that the type of center that this is evolving into with a mixed-use project really has, it starts out with a strong advantage in that with the project being built out, and you've got office buildings with office employees, and you've got residential units with residents living on site, a hotel that has daily visitors, along with the other retail that's already in the trade area, as well as other traffic and people that live and work in the area along El Toro Road, along the 5 freeway. It really creates kind of a town square, and it's a central hub for the city of Laguna Hills. And we're just really excited and think that it's a great opportunity for any of the retailers that we can attract, whether it's, the types of uses that we'd be leaning toward. You guys mentioned movie theaters. The second floor of that new building would be an ideal opportunity for a premier movie theater. There's several operators out there that have already expressed interest. We foresee a grocery store. Probably we'll shoot for an upscale, higher end tier market that could appeal to the local residents in the neighborhood, that would certainly appeal to the residents that live on site in the new apartment projects. We'll have likely to have a fitness use, whether it's a larger health club or smaller individual fitness users. And there's a whole lot of those uses out there. And then retail, the anchor retail, we already have Nordstrom Rack at the project. We do intend to reposition them within the project and have them reopen with a brand new store at the center. They've expressed interest in doing that, and I believe they're committed to the project. And then we have space along in front of that residential building number 1, where we'll have some mid-size or even a larger retailer in that area as well. And then retail shops, so those can be both national or regional brands or individual specialty stores that are one-offs for mom and pop type, operators. And, my idea is to really develop a nice blend of all the above. So, you need to have that regional and national stability with strong companies that advertise and have established businesses, and so that they can attract customers. But also, the individuals can bring in something new and different that adds a little different flair to the mix of stores. Another very important component to any shopping center is restaurants. So we have existing stores already at the project with BJ's and King's Fish House and In-N-Out Burger. Those are out there on the 2 outparcel buildings. We'll be adding 3 more outparcel pads. So pad 1, 2, and 3. And really any of those could be full service restaurants or a combination of fast casual restaurants or even retail and service. But we're thinking that pad number 1 and 2 would be full service restaurants. And then we kind of go from there and see how the interest level develops and who wants to be there. We could also do fast casual food inside the park area near the entrance to the theater, as well as, maybe possibly even a full service restaurant, but certainly specialty stores of all those different categories. So some examples would be, most of you are probably familiar with most of the movie theaters out there. So we have a group to choose from, and that could include Regal or Cinemark or ArcLight, Cinepolis, Icon. There's a whole slew. So, and we have received some interest. The full service health clubs include 24-hour fitness and Equinox, EOS Fitness, and then a variety of other smaller operators like Orange Theory Fitness. Grocery could be anywhere from Amazon Grocery to a Whole Foods to a Bristol Farms to even an Erewhon Market. That's a specialty store up in Los Angeles. The anchor retails, Nordstrom Rack, possibly somebody like Adidas or Sephora or Pottery Barn, or those types of stores, whether it's these names that I'm mentioning or someone else from those categories that might also be a benefit to what we're doing here. Then some of the specialty retail, men's, women's, children's, boutiques. A lot of specialty stores out there. You could drive any shopping center in Orange County and find these. So we'll be out looking and hunting, canvassing, using our network of brokers and retailers that we've done business with in the past, and try and attract, the best mix of stores that we can. There's also service uses, whether it's hair or nail salons or skincare or banking or financial institutions. All of those are concepts that we see as a possible fit here at the project. Get into restaurants. We've already talked a little bit about BJ's and King's, and there's other full service restaurants that have expressed interest in the past, and we'll take their temperature these days and see how they come along here as we go forward. I think the timing is right. We're suffering some challenging times right now with the coronavirus, but we expect to get beyond that, and by the time we really cut loose our leasing efforts and start making deals with new tenants, we'll be long past this. And I think we'll hit the market at the right time when people are looking to expand their businesses and open new stores. So with restaurants, we've also got the fast casual group. So I see a lot of those smaller stores around the park and in shops too underneath the residential building. I envision a coffee house and a pizza restaurant and a burger operator, whether it's somebody like The Stand or Phil's Coffee or similar users. Urban Plates is a very popular fast casual farm to table type restaurant. Done business with them before and would hope to possibly attract them as well. So the list goes on for all of those fast casual restaurants. The hotel, we're envisioning a branded upscale boutique type hotel along the lines of a Kimpton or a Hyatt, or even a Marriott where they have their autograph collection. They just opened a new hotel on the Balboa Peninsula in Newport Beach called the Lido House. And it's a very upscale, very cool hotel that's really ideal for that trade area. So we'll be talking to a variety of hotel operators and developers and come up with a hotel that we think is a good fit for this trade area. So that is what I have for today. You know, this is early in the process. We envision a lot of activity. Look forward to any ideas that any of you may have, and really want to, you know, make this a nicely thought out, balanced, well-designed project, and looking forward to getting it going. So thanks for your time.
And Stephen, before you jump in there, I just want to share, Dennis, that a few people have already shared some ideas. So if you want to take note, Mr. and Mrs. Naglee said, how about a true traditional New York type deli, essentially non-existent in OC? Or
Okay.
Keith Locketick said, how about a preschool? So just wanted to share those comments. But again, remind the group as you write your questions, please make sure you form everything in a question, and that will help us. Stephen, do you have any closing thoughts before we go into Q&A?
Yeah, so just really quickly, as Dennis mentioned on the hotel, I know we're given the situation where we're at today. Although we have a lot of interest in hotel developers, we've been in contact with, 4 to 5 different hotel developers on a long-term basis. On the office, we're currently marketing the office out to, any users out there. And so we've hired CBRE to do that moving forward. And we're very, looking forward to getting, started with this project here after the first of the year and really market it and go from there. And we've seen a lot of office users, given where we're at today, that wanting to expand, especially entertainment and life sciences, which seem to be the 2 biggest groups focusing on expanding now. So, Brenda, with that, we'll turn it over.
What video?
We'll first share the video that we have for you guys. I'll have to stop sharing my screen and then I'll show you the video.
I don't think they can see it.
Okay, and while he's doing that, I'll just, again, Dennis, give you another suggestion. Lazy Dog Restaurant came through. So.
Thank you. That's a good one.
All right. And then, Stephen, we can see your screen. If you want to go ahead and make the video full screen, we are good. Down in the lower corner, you should be able to do it. Bottom to the right.
Oh, my God.
Perfect.
All right, Brenda, that's it. And then I'll share the screen back to put the site plan up, and we'll take it over for Q&A.
Okay, great. And we've had several questions coming in about if the video will be posted, is the presentation going to be available, all of that. So I just want to quickly just answer. If you go to village@lagunahills.com, you'll be able to go to the development button, and that's going to take you to the development website. It's actually newly launched, and the video will be present there. There'll also be a gallery, and you'll be able to look at some of these things in detail. On the Village at Laguna Hills site, under events, under the community forum, you'll see the last few community forum presentations. It's a recording of the Zoom link or the Zoom session. And you'll also be able to see next week this posted there as well. And so you'll be able to kind of go through and see the presentation by using all three of those links and listening to that. So hopefully that answers the myriad of questions that have come in about that. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We have over 25 questions that have come through, and I'm going to do my best to try to get through these. We have approximately 45 minutes to answer. And if you still have continued questions, feel free to keep putting them in. We're still taking them. So I'm going to start with Harriet. She said, when was the name change from Five Lagunas to Village at Laguna Hills? And is the location in Lake Forest as originally thought, or is it in Laguna Hills?
So to answer your question, after we got our entitlements for Five Lagunas, everybody always questioned what are the actual Five Lagunas. And so since we scrapped the plan that had that name on it, we came together with the name Village at Laguna Hills just because it seems more of a village. And we felt that it was necessary to have the city's name as part of the project and not Five Lagunas. So we made the change roughly 6 or 7 months ago with the name change, and that's what we're moving forward today.
Okay, and then she had the question of is the site at all touching Lake Forest like originally planned, or is it really truly in Laguna Hills?
The whole project's in Laguna Hills.
Okay, great. Thank you, Harriet. We have an anonymous question that says, given the length of time to construction build out, what will be done in the near future to make the area less of an eyesore for our city?
Well, fortunately, while we're doing the construction documents and going through the permit process, we can start with the demolition out on the site. We still need a permit for that and some preliminary planning, but we can start. We'll be able to determine what of the existing steel can be reused, which is being staged currently at the site. We'll actually start with the demolition of the existing improvements and mall, leaving intact, however, that which is serving existing retail, the pad buildings and Nordstrom Rack. Some of the existing retail that's out there now will be leaving during that demolition and first construction phase. I must say that we'll be leaving the Nordstrom Rack while we build them their new home. So there will be activity, even though we won't start the new construction for 18 months or so. We'll be active out at the site, cleaning up what's out there, but also moving forward with our demolition.
And we'll also add graphics and to the site around the fencing and update the monument sign that's there today. So
you'll see a lot of activity.
Correct.
Okay, and we have somebody who is interested in talking through a little bit on the housing. So there's a couple parts to this question. Can you kind of speak to the timing of the housing again, specifically the number of housing units at each phase, and what kind of housing will be built at each phase, market rate versus workforce housing? And what she means by workforce housing is that she's thinking of affordable housing for retail workers and healthcare workers who live near this development. Can you speak to those points?
Sure. So on the housing, each unit, the way the specific plan works is that you have to build 50 units per acre, and they have to be contained within your acre, within the acreage. And so our thought process is that while we're building the retail, the village park, and the hotel, that residential 2 and potentially residential 3 will be built, or it could be residential 5, in order to anchor the park there. And with that, we have 200 affordable units on site, which is 100 moderate and 100 low, which will take care of that affordable component. And on timing, once we get approval to move forward with the project, we're going to start marketing the residential. And the residential is going to be, right now it's apartments moving forward. There's 5 blocks, and obviously you can see the unit counts differ per each block. And then we're going to go market the residential to a residential developer, in which one, we could either joint venture that vertical construction with them, or we can sell them a portion of the land so they can go build the residential units. And so, Dave, you have anything to add to that?
No, just as far as phasing, just to keep in mind that the residential one building that's shown as our mixed use parcel, that can't even start construction until the new home for Nordstrom Rack is built and they are moved. So that's why we're looking to start with residential blocks that are further into the site, but still trying to anchor the hotel and Village Park sites in the first few phases.
Are you able to quickly just answer how many residential units are in phase 1?
So currently right here, if phase 1 is residential 2, residential 3, you're roughly between 530 to 550 units. Roughly, if we were to build residential 5, it's probably a little less than that, but
500 or so.
about 500 or so, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see. Will you build all residential spaces or contract it out? That's from Ann Owen.
It's early in the process. We'll go do our due diligence. Our focus here is to be out in the community, talking about our plan, getting through our entitlements and through all of our documentation with the city. And then we'll go market it after that, probably within the first, 3 to 6 months after getting through the city council.
But it could be both. It could be, we could be selling the block to residential builders, we could be joint venturing, or we'd be building them ourselves. We just haven't made that determination yet.
All right, and then Claudia Muller said during the the October 28th forum, she thought she had heard that residential buildings were going to be approximately 5 to 7 stories. And as she drives around Irvine and Laguna Niguel, she notices that newer residential area apartments are 4 to 5 stories. And she's wondering, why would these buildings be potentially taller?
Well, these buildings here are 5 stories. It's the same height and density as what's being built to the south of us in the Oakbrook project. So that, to give you a sense of scale, it's the same that's being built on the project to the south of us.
And there is a height limit, in the village, in the specific plan that caps our height at 75 feet. And so in order to get the density there and on the 5 stories, that's why.
Yeah. So this is 5 story. This is 5 story product.
Okay. Trying to go through all the questions and make sure I'm sticking to the housing for right now so we can stay on target. So Lucy Parker says, we're glad to see that you're including substantial affordable housing units. What exactly is directing you to build that many in the ratios you picked?
So, in working with the city on that, we carefully, there's a couple things is we've carefully discussed making sure that those units are spread out to the, different residential units, so that, one unit isn't all affordable housing, and, that those units are spread out. And so we've been discussing that with the city for quite some time, and we think the affordable plan is great moving forward. I think it's a win for us and it's a win for the city.
And then Rona has another question on housing. Will the first phase be all market rate housing?
No, we're gonna put certain amount of affordable housing units, low and moderate in each residential building. So it'll, the percentage will be spread out accordingly, and the first phase will not be all market housing, all market rate housing.
Okay. So I think I got through most of the residential questions. You're more than welcome to keep sending them in, but I'm going to go ahead and pivot to some of the outdoor area spaces. So Rona Henry asks, will there be a playground?
The answer is yes. I don't know if you have the enlargement of the park area. So the answer is yes. So as part of our park and behind the amphitheater, we've dedicated, I believe it's between 7,000 and 9,000 square feet in our current plan. There it is. So you'll see the playground equipment located up to the right. That whole area in the park is dedicated as a tot lot or playground area for kids.
Okay. And then we have another question from Melinda, or it's not another one from Melinda. This is her first question. but another one about the open areas. Melinda Hersfeld says, what plans do the developers in the city have to ensure the open areas remain crime and homeless free?
So that's a good question, and it is certainly a problem that presents itself on many of the projects that have this kind of open space amenities. We will have on-site security on the entire property, but focused on these outdoor amenity areas as well. So not only will security be on site in 24 hours, our property management group will also be on site. We'll have an on-site property management office that will be staffed similar to what the mall had had originally. We'll have that on site. So between our security and our property management, and also I should add to that, each one of the residential developers will have their own on-site property management as well, managing their property and their project areas. Office will likely, actually, but not even likely, they will also have their own security managing their office areas, the open space, but also their lobbies. So the amount of security and property management on site will be great and will be active. Those types of, that we can't have a crime issue, we certainly can't have a homeless issue going on in our centers. And so we actively manage to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, great. And then another question about the outdoor area. Matt O says, a really nice project that is consistent with the vision established in the specific plan. Look forward to seeing this move forward. My question is related to the streetscape character, strong streetscape pylons signage located along El Toro today. Will that be pulled into the site for a unified character?
Absolutely. So we have, in fact, that part of the urban village specific plan dictates the signage that's not only consistent with what's out on the street today, but that's represented through the site. We've actually submitted a separate master sign program that outlines all of the signs throughout the site, being consistent with what is on El Toro today, but then pulling that into the site and all being very consistent. That can be found. I believe our submittal is public. We don't have pages of that today, but just know that there is a lengthy document detailing not only the wayfinding through the site, the pylon signs, the advertising signs, the tenant signs, all consistent where they're located and throughout high quality sign program throughout the site area.
Great. Claudia Muller has another question, and she is asking, as part of the cleanup, I've noticed after the trees are trimmed within the fence, the downed tree branches are left to decay. Is it possible sooner than later to have all the downed wood leaves cleaned up and removed? I would think it could be considered a fire hazard. I think she's talking about the specific current state of the property.
Branches being left to die on site.
We can look into it.
We'll certainly look into it, and like I indicated before, with our city council approval, we'll be moving forward relatively soon with the demolition project cleanup. But we'll certainly contact our property management here tomorrow and double check on the condition of the site behind the fence, specifically related to dead tree branches.
Okay, great. And kind of in this environmental lane, Marion Grace says, other than the water retention and treatment mentioned earlier, how else are you incorporating sustainability into the project, i.e. solar panels, recycling, etc.?
So the office buildings will be designed to a LEED standard. So all of the energy conservation, low impact development that goes along with getting that LEED certification will be present in the office buildings. We do low impact development. We actually use the permeable surfaces for pavers, allowing water to penetrate into the site. All of the landscaping that we're using, as dictated by the urban village specific plan, are drought tolerant and water wise. We comply with the California Build It Green program, which basically it almost gets you to LEED just by complying with those standards. Part of that's Title 24 and energy conservation and reduction in the energy usage in all of the developments throughout the site. We use low VOC, volatile organic compound materials, as dictated by the Build It Green program. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we have a water detention system that actually holds the water on site during storm events, so we don't flush the creek that it's discharged to. We have a release period where we work with Public Works to determine how that works. But then again, we treat all of the water that falls on the site either through water quality areas and landscape planners, or through fossil fuel filters before that water gets into the detention system. So all those combined, plus I'm sure a lot more that I'm forgetting, including the use of solar power, are all integrated into the design of the center.
That's great. And kind of on top of that is, we had a few questions about this. One of them from Heather Thayer, who's saying any rooftop use options as we live in California. And then we had a question similar to that about the rooftop. And they're saying, have you considered, has there been any consideration or plans to make the rooftops environmentally friendly, like covering with plants and grass? So we can definitely tell we're all from California.
So the office development and how that works out will be up to the office developer. At the current time, I'll tell you, no, there's not a plan to do green roofs on the development. However, on some of our parking structures in the residential development, we actually do have plans to do rooftop amenity decks, not only take advantage of the views, but also with landscaping, solar, and just amenity deck on top of those roofs. But we're preserving our rooftops at this point for solar, not green roof areas.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of move a little bit over to retail and the leasing spaces there. We had an earlier comment that was posted, which sounded like a tenant suggestion when they said preschool. We now have that reframed as the question, will there be a daycare?
Well, we haven't determined that yet. It's certainly something we can consider. They do require outdoor play yards. So that's something to look at. With the residential that's there and the office buildings, it's a nice use if we can accommodate it from a size standpoint. And we'll look into that a little further.
Great. And staying on the retail train of thought, we did have another suggestion. So Dennis, if you want to take note, Urban Plates is a nice restaurant, somebody said.
Yes.
And then also they are asking, what gyms are you talking with? Are you talking to Crunch, 24-Hour Fitness? What kind of gyms you might be talking to?
We previously had a lease with 24-Hour Fitness under the former plan. They do remain interested. And Crunch and EOS have expressed interest as well. And then we'll see where all that takes us. Equinox is someone else that I had been working with in the past. So we'll evaluate whether they're a realistic option as well.
Wonderful. And then Joe L says, is the retail square footage flexible based on how much is now being shifted to online buying due to COVID-19? Do you feel some of that loss to local retail will return?
I believe it will. You know, in a normal, healthy retail environment, there's no reason that people wouldn't want to come to a beautiful center like this and shop. You know, I think the internet and Amazon and online shopping is here to stay, and as it continues to grow, but there's still a strong appetite for people that want to go out and experience a shopping environment and have the other amenities available to them as well. That includes restaurants and entertainment. So we believe very strongly in it, and I mean that's the nature of our business. We own approximately 100 shopping centers along the West Coast, so we're locked in on retail shopping, and we're very optimistic.
Well, Lucy Parker says a lot has been done to develop a marketplace for local craftspeople in the former Macy's building. Such a market could be a continuing tourist attraction. What are your thoughts on including that tradition in this space?
Well, I'm open to the use, whether that particular operator is interested in staying long-term. You know, we will have new buildings with a lot of construction costs, and, you know, the rents will be going up, and changing and modifying from the current state of the existing center. So I'll be in touch with them, and I've already met them already in the past, and I'm sure we'll be talking about another potential opportunity. It won't be in the same building, and it wouldn't be possibly the same size of space, but we can certainly talk.
And then staying with the same tenant group that you're responsible for, Dennis, Rona has theaters are struggling with COVID and may not make it. What is the backup plan if you can't get a theater in there? And if you were to get a theater in there, how many seats are in those movie theaters and how many screens will be to it?
Well, we're looking at approximately 12 to 14 screens, probably 1,000 to 13 to 1,500 seats. And, you know, the movie theater industry, much like fitness and a lot of other retail uses, is being challenged right now because of the pandemic. You know, once all that clears the air and we're able to move on with our normal lives, the movie theater companies remain very bullish and optimistic. I was on the phone with Regal today, and they're here to stay. So they, you know, they're excited about their future going forward. And, you know, we think that that's a viable use as well, and a use that we'd like to have for the center. If for some reason that changed, we would also mobilize and figure out an alternative use, but we don't think that that's going to be the case.
I truly think that once COVID and the quarantine, the stay at home and the vaccinations start coming, people are going to be wanting to get out to the movie theaters. So, so we're going to kind of start to veer towards traffic a little bit. This sort of touches a little bit on the tenant mix that you have planned. But Claudia Moeller says, with the increase in home delivery of everything A to Z, how will the traffic issue be planned into the drop-off areas of the many residential buildings in the entire project?
So right now we have designed drop-off areas into the residential areas where you enter the parking structure. There is a drop-off for each one of the buildings. There is a drop-off area. So we're planning for that. I would imagine that if we find, and by the way, these retail developers that are developing this product, they see that as well. They've got increased capacity for packages like the Amazon Dropbox centers that they're now incorporating into their lobbies, increased mailbox sizes, or the overflow where you get the key dropped off in your mailbox, you got to open the bigger box. They're increasing their capacity to do that as well. So the residential developers are quite on top of the changing nature of well, not only drop off for packages, but pick up of passengers. People are calling Ubers and Lyfts to come pick them up. So to have those drop off and pick up areas are important, and they'll be designed into the areas and have been designed into the areas.
So as a follow-up to that, Melinda Hersfeld said, how is the increased traffic going to be mitigated?
So the urban village specific plan dictates or has a trip budget associated with the development. And that so only so much development is allowed within that trip budget or number of car trips. This plan works within that trip budget. So the original planning document for the urban village specific plan sets out a maximum number of trips that can happen and that the roads have been designed for in the entire urban village specific plan area, which includes hospital, the area, the center across the street, the Oak Brook Center to the south of us. And so our project and the uses here and the traffic demands associated with them fit within that trip budget. That's why we're allowed to build what it is that we're building, because we don't exceed what's already been planned for by the city.
Okay, and then they're wondering, Joel L is wondering, will this plan have more traffic and would that be challenged by adjacent cities or other groups?
The traffic is not more, it just happens at different times. When we shift the traffic from a retail center, which traffic mostly occurs during the day and on the weekends, and while we still have 250,000 square feet of that's still happening, what we also see is the single or the trip a day by the residential units where they're leaving in the morning and coming back in the evening. And same with the office buildings where we have fewer trips, but the trips that are happening at different times of the day. So not necessarily more traffic. Well, it won't be more traffic. It'll simply happen at different times of the day.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and move to I'll move to the office space, but there is something about their parking. So we'll start there since we're talking about cars. Harriet wants to know, where were the office tenants parked? Can you show her on the map?
Sure. So we've got two parking structures planned. The parking structure there, parking structure A, is a shared parking structure between the office and retail. So that's planned to be a surface lot in the earlier phases, as well as the rest of the lot that sits under Office Building 4. Office Building 4 is contemplated to be the last office building to be built. So we'll use the surface parking until such time as that building and parking structure are deemed necessary or someone wants to build those. Parking structure B is solely intended to be for the office buildings, and that won't be shared with the retail or the park. That being said, what we'd like to see happen though, and is that, or what's planned to happen, is that both office building parking structures, both the shared and the individual parking structures, while those will be controlled for office building, structure B will be controlled during the day. The plan is at the evenings and weekends, the gate arms come up at 5 p.m. such that everyone can use those parking structures. And then obviously, and then gated then for the typical office, 8 to 5 during the regular office day, but joint use and open evenings and weekends.
Great. All right. And then David Falls says, are there specific business models targeted for the office buildings? For example, will there be medical offices, small business offices, or will any of these buildings be used by a single large company? So,
we're actually out in the market today looking at that. We're targeting larger format users today. That doesn't mean, where the market drives in the future, that'll happen. But, it's more general office. We're not targeting medical office. There's a lot of medical office, obviously, with the hospital and medical office down on Calle de la Plata that already exists. But the reason the buildings are oriented this way is that if you wanted to have one unit that wanted, or one tenant that wanted to occupy 2 buildings, 3 buildings, but have a connection, these buildings potentially could have walkways or pathways to connect to each entire building. So you can go as little as 40,000 feet or as high as 400,000 feet. So, but yeah, we are targeting general office use here.
And it could be 1 or 2 or 3 major users that take an entire building, or it could, whereas other buildings could be floor to floor.
And as I mentioned earlier, what we're seeing in the marketplace is a huge growth in the life sciences, which Orange County ranks 12th in the entire country of growth of life sciences. So we're definitely starting to see that.
But that's different from medical office, right?
Correct.
Because medical office actually has a higher parking demand to it that we're currently not planning for.
Okay, and then there's a comment about COVID and companies working, how they may stay working at home. Have you seen any trends that indicate that companies are moving away from in-office and going more remote long-term beyond this season?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what plays out after the pandemic is over. We have a campus of office buildings in Mountain View, where Facebook has all of their people currently working from home, but their plan is to bring them all back. What we see as a future trend, however, is the companies that we've talked to in this arena really feel that there's a strong dynamic and workplace environment that they want to maintain by having the in-person collaboration of their employees. And we feel, and they feel that will continue. What they see happening is that there might be more square feet per employee, as we're currently, you might have, 250 square feet dedicated per employee. They see that number growing as we're trying to create more space around each employee instead of jamming them into smaller offices. The other trend we see is, or that they see coming, is creating more of a hotel component to their floor plan, where people can come in and have a desk where they work at for a day or 2 days, and then they might work from home part of the time, but still be plugging into the office a couple days a week, and they're still working through that. So I guess at the end of the day, most companies are planning on returning to the office space, probably with more space per employee, and create hotel environments for the employees that probably aren't coming back full time, but still plan to split their day between home and office.
Okay. Matt O says, really appreciate the inclusion of office space within the project. It will bring about good jobs to Laguna Hills. As the office is indicated as market driven, how will the site area be treated in the interim until built, i.e., or for example, landscape installed, sidewalks, etc.?
So we're going to maintain the existing parking and landscaping that exists today in those areas until they're developed. So there won't just be dirt and weeds. We're planning on, we will maintain the landscaping, the striping, the slurry seal, all the landscaping that's, is entailed in keeping those parking areas today. We'll be putting in the roadway infrastructure around them. There might be some areas that are indeed we have to build out to like a blue top, so we actually have a dirt pad area ready to build for an office building with the utility stuff in there. But by and large, you'll just see, just like we're doing on the southeast corner, you'll see a parking lot, a fully landscaped parking lot exist there until the buildings are built.
Okay, great. Well, we have about 5 questions remaining. You can, of course, continue to keep your questions flowing if you want, but we have about 14 minutes left. So want to get through these, and it looks like we may be able to end early. So I'm just going to go through these because they're all kind of around across the different areas. So Rona is asking, will the first phase of affordable units, excuse me, be only moderate level, or will it also include low income units?
It'll definitely include both.
Okay, and then Soshi R says, would you be open to having something like Anaheim Packing District on site for combined venue, restaurant, and small scale events?
Yeah, I think that's something that we have to look at. If again, it's a specific type of a use. By the way, I love the Anaheim Packing Company or venue. It's nice. Again, it's just, we have the ability to do it. If we had the user that was interested in doing that kind of a development, I think it's somebody we talk to.
Okay, great. Lucy Parker says, oh, it's a compliment. So she just said, just a compliment. We're quite impressed about your residential buildings, each with its parking cleverly in the middle. First, we've heard of that. Nice job. So thank you. And then Matt O says, how will the public art requirements identified in the specific plan be handled, on site or in lieu?
Both. We've actually already, based on our previous entitlements, we've already written a large check to the city and the arts program that covers, I'm going to say, 50% of our total art requirement. So that would cover the in lieu component. And then the rest of the art component, as dictated by a percentage of the construction cost, will be building on site. And that's identified as kind of we have locations for it, but we haven't yet identified the artwork. We have an art program. It's part of our entitlement package. We haven't identified the individual artist as of yet, but there will be an on-site art component as well as the in lieu fee we've already paid.
Okay, and then John Hogan is asking, has a more centralized location for the Village Park been looked at? For example, switch the hotel and the park locations, put the park closer to the residents. Any thoughts you want to share on that, Dave?
Well, we did. We did look at moving it. We thought that the park, activated by the retail uses with outdoor dining, created just really a hive of activity. In some place, it's really a there. So having it connected, and by the way, try not to be too busy or active by the residential who don't want, the mixed use building number 1 does look down on the park. Our concern was that we didn't want to create too much noise or activity that would bother the residential, but still you're a couple 100 feet away from walking to it. So yes, we did look at several options for the park and decided that having it central and also on that main street spine was important to us and the city, which actually also connects across the street to City Hall. So having it in this location, we decided was the best. We did look at numerous options in not only the park, but the retail and the hotel. And this is what emerged in our conversation with the city and the planning staff as the best location for it.
Okay, great. Harriet's wondering, will public transportation come into the village to drop shoppers off?
It will. So, and maybe you can mark on it right next to the dog park. We have a bus stop located within the park that not only handles the senior shuttle that happens currently at the mall, but also there's room for bus drop off there. We are also building 2 new bus stops on Calle de Luisa, where they are located today. Their bus stop there today. We're actually creating bulb outs for the pull-offs off of the street for those, and that connect directly to the transit center that's on the southwest corner of the site.
Great. And then right now we have this last question. So if you want to go ahead and put any more questions in, we have a few more minutes, but if nothing comes in, this will be our last question of the night. Asked by Keith Lockitch. Will the entire site be walkable to pedestrians, unlike Tustin Marketplace, where there aren't sidewalks throughout?
Oh, no, great question. Thank you. We've spent a lot of time making sure that this is a very walkable center. All streets have sidewalks and planter strips, and if not parking directly on the street, which prohibits the landscaping from happening directly on it, we have landscape and sidewalks on all of our streets. In fact, I would even point out the unique design in front of our retail buildings along El Toro, where we actually continue the street where we have only a couple cross points from the parking area over to the street to promote on-street parking and sidewalks on both sides of those streets as well, which you typically do not find in traditional retail centers. The parking lot comes straight up onto the buildings, and you have a kind of a little bit of a scurry to get across where you have the car pedestrian interface. So all of these streets have sidewalks on both sides and tons of landscaping and benches and amenities. We've gone a long ways to provide a truly walkable mixed-use center.
We actually have a few more last questions that have come in. Rona Henry, who you have been awesome and active during this session, so thank you for all of your questions. She says, looks like a beautiful design, hoping my daughter can afford to live there, and she wants to know any areas for bike parking.
Yeah. So not only, if we had enlarged plans, I can show you all of the different areas dedicated to not only bike parking, outdoor bike parking, also bike storage lockers. All of the residential buildings will have their own bicycle amenities and bike storage lockers located within the parking structures on the ground floor level. The office buildings will also have bike storage, bike parking, not only out in the amenitized outdoor areas, but also bike lockers and shower facilities as a part of their design. So yes, we are fully compliant with the city's code in terms of bike parking, bike lockers, and bike storage.
Okay, and then we had David Falls asking this last question, it looks like. The original plan had an integration with the Oakbrook Plaza. Is this still part of this plan?
It is. The Calle Zocalo, which is located on the west side of the parking structures, directly connects to the Oakbrook Center. And with there's a street that connects there, actually lower, come down there.
Yeah,
right?
This is pedestrian
Right.
access. This will be
No, that's
vehicle access.
oh, they're actually both. So we're connecting that way. We're also at our new signal. Well, actually, it doesn't show it here. We're actually putting a new signal here, but there's also pedestrian connection along Avenida La Carlota that connects as well to that street. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, and then Marian Grace just sent in a question. Well, will there be electric car plugins for residential or customer parking?
Absolutely. So the city actually mandates electric car parking now. So not only will there be electric parking for the residential units, and that's, by the way, the state code on that's consistently evolving and increasing in number. But we'll not only have we'll certainly have electric parking spaces available throughout the retail parking as well. The office also will have their own EV stalls. That's now dictated by California code as something that you need to provide and consistently increasing in number. So yes, you'll see a lot of that. Everyone knows what's coming. And so people try to get the infrastructure, they're mandating the infrastructure we put in to expand that electric car parking greatly over current code.
That's great. Well, I just want to say to everyone, we have 34 participants left on this call. You all have been wonderful and active tonight. So thank you for all of your questions. We do have some additional questions. Oh, they're just comments. Excellent plans. Looking forward to seeing the project move forward. And then there was a nice comment about me. So thank you guys. Have a great.
Well, Brenda, thank you very much for your time tonight, and
Thank you.
look forward to being out in the public here soon. Hopefully, within City Council for a presentation, and if we encourage you to come out and speak to the council. We think it's very important for the constituents to be active with the City Council. So again, Brenda, thank you very much, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.